Feel free. In fact, I encourage putting the camera on so I can see people, and we can kind of do this together, which would be wonderful. Thank you, Alyssa. Okay, well, first of all, to kick off, I'd like to acknowledge the First Peoples of Australia as the first artists, the first storytellers, the first communities, and the first creators of culture. And your stories and experiences are the heart of this country. And I've included that beautiful artwork, if you haven't seen that already, by Brad Hall, who has done this for the Sports Commission. It's a beautiful story. If you have a look on our website, it's a fabulous story. So my name is Belle Hogg. I am the lead service designer at the Australian Sports Commission and have volunteered myself to give this presentation to you on human-centered design, and it's actually going to be a bit of a deep dive into journey mapping, which is a tool that you can use, and we'll be going through that today and doing a little bit of a practical of using a real life example and mapping that. A little bit about myself. As I said, I'm a service designer, so that's human-centered, user research. I look at sort of what's going on for the customer, but also what goes on for staff and all those people behind the scenes as well. Sport is definitely something that's really important in my life. It always has been, very family, as you can see all by those photos there. My dad, rugby league as a kid. I was always there, cricket. My kids all have done various sports, and we find that a lot of us here today obviously have sport in common, but we do different roles as well within that ecosystem. I've volunteered for numerous things, have been that parent coach, doesn't even know what they're doing necessarily. Yeah, experiences of people and yours are very, very important. Some of the things about human-centered design, so that I want you to keep in mind, design is a team sport. It isn't something you generally just sit in a little cubicle and do by yourself. It involves people. So going out, talking to people, getting together regularly, collaborating, all very important things. Asking lots of questions. I'm definitely that person in a room that some might say ask the dumb questions, but I would probably say that. But they're often questions of a curiosity and trying to understand more and more about things. Jump in. So even if you think, I don't really know that much about it, might be a bit scary, it's really important just to get in there, have a go. It's better than not. So yeah, getting in there, getting dirty. Also be present, and I guess these things apply today. Like it's would love everyone to contribute where you can. Feel free to put things in the chat, come off mute, ask questions. I don't mind at all. I've got there, don't be offended when. Now that is about feedback. So when you go through a human-centered design process, you will often hear things, particularly when I'm talking about user research and journey mapping today. If you're going and you're talking about your club or your organisation, and people are telling you things, it's hard to not be sensitive, but we have to try to not be offended by things, because they're telling us things out of honesty, and we can use that to make things better. So keep in mind that feedback is often gold. Have fun. That is very important, and often I have heard, what is all that fun happening over there? It's serious play, but it is definitely fun. listen to each other. So when you are co-designing with other people, it's really important to bring in those diverse views and listen to what each other kind of takes out from user research as well. Celebrate successes, small and big. So just making sure in your team or your club or wherever you might be from, make sure you're celebrating things as you go. Don't think that you have to wait till one big thing's done to celebrate that. Even if it's just fixing something, that's a win. Embrace a beginner's mindset. Every time I go into user research, I'm back to beginner again, because the topic's going to be different, the people might be different, the time, things can change. So always kind of embrace that. You know, I'm here. I'm not going to assume everything and think that I know all the answers to everything, because then you kind of close yourself off to learning more. I'm going to stop sharing that. And today I'm going to be doing a lot of drawing. I'll just make sure this is still on. Yes, it is. Okay, and I can't see. Just bear with me for a sec. I'm just going to spotlight my screen. I do like to, I love to draw, and I hope that this works for you guys. It's a bit of an experiment. I do often draw live, but I haven't with this particular piece of work, so I hope that I hope it works. Okay, so what I would like to start off with is talking to you a little bit about empathy. It's definitely something that you start with in human-centered design. In fact, I don't think you can to really begin to. Oh, can anyone see Belle's screen share? That's a good point. Can everybody see? I've spotlighted, and you can click on Belle. Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Hopefully everybody can work out seeing that. I think if you click on Belle and it's got unverified, it should come up. Yeah, so always start with empathy, because if you don't have a deeper understanding of the people that you're designing for, or you're running a service for, delivering a product, it's very hard to understand where they're coming from. So in order to gain insight, it's really important to empathise with those people, and the kinds of things that you would get from that is you get their needs, you get thoughts from them, and I'll be diving into how we get to this point as well. You'll also get emotions, and of course you get motivations, and motivations are not always something that's clear at first. It can take a little bit of digging, it can take a little bit of working as a team to go, what's underlying here, or just asking questions, and why is that, or can you tell me more about that? Those kind of open-ended questions. And empathy means challenging those preconceived ideas and setting aside a sense of what you think is true in order to learn what actually is true, that people aren't necessarily conscious of. And I'm going to be going through, and I will take screenshots of these, and I'm going to share them to everyone. So feel free to sit back and listen, or take notes as you go along. If you want to do any drawings as well, I would love that. And we will at some stage do some drawing together, but we'll get to that soon. So another really important aspect is that taking a human-centered design, or I'll refer to it as HCD, approach helps manage risk. So it takes those big complex problems, breaks them down, allows us to experiment and I guess test things, fail fast, learn and evolve our thinking to deliver, better outcomes for people. So I've got this kind of diagram that I like to use with business when they say we don't have time for talking to people. Not that anyone's saying that necessarily here, but I have used this before, and you might use it if you find it hard to have that time to talk to people. But when it comes to cost, and I mean it could be cost in getting some new technology or creating a new application or implementing a new service, or just even cost in reputation as well. And then time to do things. So we do things like discovery, and then you make something, you design how that's going to be, you try it out with a pilot, and then you roll it out. But it kind of looks a little bit like this. And down here, the cost is really low to create something. I mean, I'm talking about you can sit and you can create, oh, my little profile goes here, and this could be an app screen, and then you do the next one, and then they click and they go to this. It's very easy. It's very inexpensive. So I would say in this area here, it's easier and it's less cost to make changes, because it doesn't matter about making changes here. We don't have to go to a developer or something to go, can you, pay lots of money to change something, because we're just doing it lo-fi here. However, if you skipped that and you just went straight over to here, when we get to this part here, this is quite expensive, but also it can be really embarrassing. It also could affect people's lives, quite frankly, if you think of some of the like Centrelink or those kinds of things that have happened previously, where it hasn't been thought through well of the consequences, but expensive and embarrassing to make changes after you've rolled it out. So doing those kind of incremental changes and being able to talk to people and say, hey, 5 volunteers out of 50, hey, what do you think of this? Just even asking that question alone can be quite incredible sort of feedback. So that's just one diagram, and as I said, I'll send that out. Another model that I use, and I am being a bit theoretical here, but we will get into some practical shortly, is it used to be 3 circles, but now it's kind of morphed into 4 circles, and there's this kind of sweet spot in the middle where human-centered design kind of intersects all of those. And we start up here with desirable, and this is a really good model when you're thinking even something like our club needs to change a process. Think about desirable first. So that means what do our, I'll use the word customers, what do our customers use, or our clients, people, participants, whatever you would like to, staff would like to put there. And we start there, like, what do our customers use, but also like, needs, wants, would they even use this thing? Would it fit into their life or their work or wherever it might be? Would they actually want it? Then we've got viable. So does it generate value? So does it generate value for all? So it might be, it might not generate value for business or the people. So that's what that one's about. And then we get to feasible. So that's around, can we actually do this, or can we make this? You know, do we have the skills? Do we have the capability? It might be we want to implement a really fantastic website for our team, but then you realise we don't actually have any money or people here that know how to make websites, just as an example. So that's, can we make it? And then this one has been something in the human-centered design world that's been introduced sort of recently, but ethical. I mean, should we even do this thing? Is it right? Is it, you know, is it the right thing to do? Is it going to affect other things? So ethical is another one that comes in there as well. And like I said, right in the centre here, when you kind of can intersect all of those, that's where the sweet spot is of human-centered design. Okay. Now I'm just going to show you one more model because this is where I'm going to pull out one of the tools or the activities that we do in human-centered design, and sort of the methodology. And you know, it's something that's been around for a very long time, and some people may have heard of it or may not. It's the double diamond, and it's by the UK Design Council. It goes way back, but it's all about, this diamond here is about designing the right thing. So this is where we talk to people. So we do what's called discovery, and then we define, like, what is actually the problem? Because sometimes we can start out and we think we know what the problem is, but then we talk to people and we go, actually, it's quite different to what we actually realised, because we've talked to people and found out a little bit more. So we do discovery, define, and then we've got develop and deliver. And I'm not going to go into that too much today, but what we do is we kind of, it's a diamond for a reason, because it's all about that kind of converge and diverge. So, you know, we go out wide and we find out heaps of stuff. So we go out there, is there reports, is there other things, and then we come back in and kind of define it a little bit more of what actually is this thing about, and what are we hearing, seeing, what's the patterns. In this kind of, I guess, in this diamond here, and I did forget to mention, the second diamond is actually design the thing right. So in this first part, the kinds of activities that we do here would be, we do interviews with people, and those interviews, they could be online due to expense or things like that. I find nothing better than a contextual interview. So actually just going down, in the sport world, it might be going down to a game or going to a competition or an event, and just being able to talk to people. Observe is another one. So observations. There's a lot of things underlying here, and I'm not deep diving into those today, but there's definitely a lot of readings, and I will share lots of information that can help you look at that a little bit more, with things like even consent, getting people to consent to interviews and things like that. But interviews, observations, some other things might be surveys. I wouldn't ever do just a survey. Surveys will only give you so much. It's what you call quantitative data. So you can get lots of stuff, but often you don't get the why. So you might get the you know, we're doing this thing, or I chose this service instead of that one, but you don't ever know why, because you can't actually keep asking them questions. But it is a good one to kind of go together with your qualitative data, which is like interviews and things like that. Desktop research. Is there stuff already out there? That could be articles, you know, that's kind of easy to access. The Clearinghouse for Sport's a good place to go. You can find different research on there. There's participation surveys and things that have gone out. That all, you know, can contribute to that desktop research. And the other things can be personas or archetypes. So a persona is, or an archetype is a amalgamation of, when you've interviewed types. It might be, I interviewed coaches, and I found that there was 3 types of coaches. There was one that you do it my way. There was the nurturing coach. There was the maybe it's the parent, I don't really know what I'm doing coach. Those kinds of archetypes or personas can come out, and you write a little bit about those people. There's empathy maps, is another one, and again I'll share lots of resources with you after this so that you can look into it as well. But the one we're going to look at today is journey mapping, and we're going to sort of deep dive into that and learn more about journey mapping. So at that stage, I'm just going to pause for one moment to see if anybody has any questions, comments. Have you tried this? Have you done any of these techniques before? How did it work for you? Yeah, open for any questions. I can't see everyone, so I'm going to assume there's no questions at this point.
I think we just lost your sound for a second.
Oh, okay.
You're back again. Maybe it was just me. Anyway, you're back again. Sorry, I was just wondering if you would just be able to go out for one moment. I don't know whether I missed just the very first. I don't think I did, but I feel like I've missed something along the way. Excuse me, everybody else. Just to go kind of back out again for the whole, the big picture view on kind of this concept of human-centered design, and then journey mapping as part of that process. Does that make sense?
So what human-centered design is, or?
Yeah, just kind of going back onto like the big picture view for the whole concept of human-centered design.
Okay. How can I explain this a little more? So, I guess as the word says, human-centered, it's putting people at the centre of what you're designing. Now that could be you could have an existing service or product. Do you have an example? Are you from a committee or a club, or?
I run my own business, so I was heavily involved in sort of Olympic sport with Australian Sports Commission and things for a long time, and then moved across to Western Australia, and have ended up worked at Waste, and then set up my own business in sort of sports science and athlete wellbeing consulting.
Okay, so in the wellbeing stuff, you probably use a lot of these things anyway. To me, it feels common sense, but it's not necessarily in a business world. We often start with assumptions like, I did a whole pile of research on surfing, for example, and there was assumptions from the NSO around, people do this, and you know, the states do this, or these people over here do this, or the private businesses, and not necessarily bad, but they're assumptions at the end of the day. And yes, we do have contact with people at certain stages, but there's also people that probably don't go outside of their office much either. So I spent a few months traveling around Australia, visiting beaches. Sounds amazing. It bloody rained the whole time. I was like in a raincoat, drenched. Damn. And talking to people who run surfing businesses. I talked to parents while they were watching their kids do lessons. All of those kinds of things. And you don't necessarily start with, so what do you think about the Australian Sports Commission? Because I probably go, who? It's more, hey, so what's going on here? What's you know, how does surfing fit into your life? Or you know, what's in this particular thing, I was interested in all the digital touch points or not that a person went through to register their kid. Then any training you might do, comps, how do you register, you know, and watching that kind of, they're going all over the place. So at the end of the day, you're looking at that end-to-end experience of someone or groups of people. I don't know if that explains it anymore for you. I feel like it's something, as we work through, I'm hoping by the end.
Yeah, no, I'm probably just trying to work out how it fits in, how I can apply it to my business, or into what I do with athletes. But I can.
It absolutely
stay on the line with you afterwards.
Yes,
I don't want to interrupt.
So I've done quite a bit around athletes. So even an example would be their camp experience at the campus here at AIS. Even just getting permission, of course, and setting up all those kind of recruiting people, as in how do I find athletes to talk to, talking to them. Then afterwards, what do I do with that data? So I might have written all these notes and collected videos and everything, and you almost end up with this, what looks like one of those crime scene walls. It's not. It's a nice one. And you're kind of piecing all the bits together and working out what's going on here end to end, and where's the pain points in between. And that's what I'm going to go through with journey. That's why I thought I'll do journey mapping as a tool, because I think that people can use this in their everyday sport world. So hopefully, if I haven't got there by the end, you definitely stay on the line, and we'll work through it even more.
Thank you.
I think the most important thing too is that human-centered design, it's evidence-based. So you're collecting evidence that something either doesn't work or something's great. So you don't always want to focus on the bad. Like, it would be awful to redesign a service and take away something that people actually find really easy and amazing, for example. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about types of maps. So I guess I always start with a current state map. Let's talk about different maps, and there's current state. Now that is basically understanding what happens now. What is it that someone experiences? And quite frankly, this tool is such an easy one that you can do on the fly, and I'll show you an example shortly, that you could do this with just about every interview you do. Otherwise, you kind of amalgamate them and you find similarities between them. So the current state is the now, what's happening, and understanding people. And then you can do future state, but that comes that comes later when you've gone through, hey, what's some great ideas to make this better? And then you kind of, it's almost like you're storyboarding what the future could look like for these people. In a map, the kinds of things that we have are stages. So stages could be, and often are, things like awareness. So this is very high level. So I become aware of something. I might make a decision. So I'm deciding, will I do that? Will I go with that? Will I sign my kid up to surfing? I'm making a decision. And then I'm going to the next part. And this can vary for different people's maps. The next one could be buying or purchasing. But if you're someone like a volunteer, it could be onboarding, those kinds of things. So yes, that's the top layer, and maps can vary as well. And I'm going to show you some examples soon as well. So I hope that will help as well. The next part, so with your map, you will always have a, what I referred to before as a persona or an archetype, and it usually has a little bit of information about them, depending on what you're doing. If you were in a tech group like I am, it could be this person is quite digital savvy, or they're not. And that's super important for when we come to designing something, that we're not taking away, other options as well. So you have your person, and then you might have, well, here's this person and the steps they go through, which I use Post-it notes if I'm doing physically, and often do that with people. There's also a tool called Miro, M-I-R-O, or Mural is another one, and they're tools that you can get online that you can open up these boards and you can start mapping, and they're digital Post-it notes basically. So I would sort of go through steps like, what kinds of activities or tasks are these people doing? So this is all about what they do. And these different swim lanes can vary on what your project is, what your business is, what you're looking into, of course. And then you have things like the feels or emotions. And I'm sounding a bit, I could be sounding a bit, sometimes I get hit with, oh, it's so fluffy. This is actually a really important part, because when someone looks at and uses this in your organisation, it's very clear when I see these areas and I go, oh my gosh, in the onboarding area, there is a lot of this going on. And so that would say to me, oh, okay, this is an opportunity in this space here to make this better. So visualizing things, having those feelings, and you can usually get that from people, or you can ask them, tell me a little bit more about that, or, oh gosh, how did that make you feel when that happened? Those kind of questions when you're talking. You can also include things like, I'm just going to call it stuff, but they're basically like touch points, or sometimes people call them channels, but that is pretty much when they did this thing, what stuff were they using? So this was online, it was on a website. Then they had to make a call. I can't even remember how to do a phone. Let's just pretend that's a phone. Then, they're talking face to face with a person. So you're sort of identifying different things going on, and that also can identify for you, well, we noticed that you know, in this area here, they've got 3 different things that they're doing. Is there room for maybe, you know, and it could even be that this is website 1 and this is website 2 and 3 over here. Why are we making them go to 3 different applications or websites? And then, and I call this, you could call this front of stage. So if you think of a, you know, when we go to a retail shop, we interact sometimes with the people from that business, or you go to the physio, or yeah, those kinds of services, you're interacting with another person. So you can include those people as well. So this is still front of stage because that person deals directly with them. Whereas, so I'm just going to put there, you know, say staff or, yeah, but this is all front. So this customer has dealt directly, you know, with them on this part. Maybe not here. Maybe they did everything themselves online. Back a stage, however, and this is a different map. This is when we're going into things, and this is called more your service blueprint or a service map. And in the backstage there is where you do things like, you might say, what are the people? Who are the people? So it might be in this area here. This is the comms team doing something, or the if you're on a committee or something, the president does this bit here, and then the secretary is coming in here, and then we've got process. And process here could be things like this thing happens, but then they do that because you're kind of aligning here, and then they do this other thing, and then this happens, but then down here they do this other thing. So there's process, there's people, there's technology. It's not necessarily the same technology here because this to a person is a website. To the backstage, the technology is WordPress or any of those kind of tech words. I'm not that techie, so I'm not even going to try to give you some examples necessarily there. And then you've got policy. So sometimes this thing happens here because actually we have to abide by a policy or something is going on down here. I'm only just giving you just a little bit of info on that. I'm not going to go into the service map part. It's more about that front stage and journey mapping today. But also, yeah, as I said, sometimes there's areas that become what we call opportunities, and your map can sometimes just have these areas where you go, you know what, that is a great opportunity to do something a bit different and make this so much easier for these people to do this thing. And that can be customers, clients, that could also be staff if you're working on internal processes as well. So that is different sort of types of maps. There is a lot more than that. How you do them as well, honestly, sometimes you can just do a visual. I've done maps with people in person as I'm interviewing them and used it as a bit of a, I'm being really transparent about what I'm writing about you or what I'm capturing, and I might even say, have I got this right? Or sorry, can we come back to this bit here? What happened after that? What was that part about? And as you can see, I just drew that on a bit of paper with some lines. You could also do the same. So it is a very sort of cheap tool. And like I said, there's the digital versions as well, like Miro. Why map is probably a good one. So why? If I was to say why to mapping, what's the value? It first of all, it identifies experiences. It also identifies efficiencies or inefficiencies. It can help you identify what's called pain points, which was those orange parts that I was showing that can become opportunities. And it can also show gaps as well, which I like to say is the problem, I guess. This pain point is what's the problem with, and sometimes we think our service is great. Like, you know, people are coming, they're turning up. And then we find out, oh, it's actually a lot harder than we realised. You can also you can design a new or improved service or product. So service or product. Gosh, my pen's getting a bit dodgy. And you can get the full experience from people. So you can get that kind of end-to-end and those touch points, just as I was demonstrating in what's in a map. And basically, oh, thanks, Sarah. Just got a new pen. You can discover today with the current state, but you can also describe tomorrow. And that's a really good tool to have, to be able to say, I actually think it could look like this tomorrow. Tomorrow could be, you know, next week, it could be next year. And that as well can help with shifting your organisation's mindset. So, and I say organisation, that can be anything. That could be the whole organisation. That could be your team are focusing on a product at the moment, and you show something and you say, actually, we're focusing on the wrong thing. We probably need to pivot here. And it's good to find that out early, as I explained before, with that sort of risk type of thing. Best part is it is based on people. It's based on user research. It should be. No one should be making up a map. It does happen, but I wouldn't, because that equals understanding of what's actually going on. And ultimately, what happens from that, from all of this, is you're creating this shared vision. I'm going to swap pens, that's terrible. Creating a shared vision together of, yep, it does look like this at the moment, or yes, that's where we're heading. Good one. So all the people have this shared vision, and they know that current, it's going from this at the moment, and it's going to here. And then you work out those steps of how you're going to get there. So that is a little bit about value of why mapping. I'm going to pause for one sec again and just see if anyone has any questions or comments or could see this being used. So quiet today.
Hey, Belle.
Yeah.
We just opened a history room. We're on a volunteer committee group for AFL, and part of what we needed to do was work out how to bring the juniors in. So we left a big, sort of like what you've done, and it's just a table there. This is where we are. This is what we have of the juniors, and they sort of left it so people could add what they thought it might look like for us. So just a bit of feedback on mapping and how we're using it.
Oh, that's great. And so where you say people can input, like it's somewhere public?
Yeah, we've set it up in the section. We've left the walls got nothing on it really, a few pictures and a couple of team shots. And then we've just put a table with a big pad, sort of drawn it. We've left lots of pages and pens and pencils and stuff so they can just add in as they need. And we've sort of drawn up the design and just asked them, what do you think, yada, 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 and given them the opportunity then.
Oh, that's fantastic. And that is exactly one of the things that you can do with this tool is get it out there, share it, make it really visual, and get people contributing to it. The more people you can pull in, if it's not through actual one-on-one interviews, it could be just bringing in little groups of people like, hey, we've got 3 volunteers here today, and we're just going to go through this with them. Hey, is anything different here for you guys? Or that's amazing.
Down the track, but yeah, we only opened it last week, so we'll start getting the feedback in now. So yeah.
Oh, that's great, Alyssa. Oh, I hope to hear more about that. I'd love to see. Take photos as it goes over time. That would be super cool.
That'd be interesting.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. So I guess I was talking about a journey map, basing that on user research. Very important to get people inputting into this, not just the people that work on it, because we do have a kind of unconscious bias, or maybe it's conscious sometimes. And quite often a journey map that's based on assumptions has, 2 risks. It carries less weight because people will sort of write that off as it's anecdotal rather than a tool for change. And also people like team members working on something or a committee might make something based on that, and it's actually really inaccurate map that could lead to decisions that aren't right for that experience, for better or worse. All right, so with researching, so I've kind of talked about it a little bit, but step 1 is look for existing data first. So what's already out there, and I did mention this before, so we sort of call that desktop research, or and sometimes it's just a matter of, it's incredible what can happen when you ask people around your club or your organisation and say, hey, have you ever looked into this thing before? What's the experience like when people do come for game day? Has anyone ever talked to people about that before? And it could be interesting. People could say, oh yeah, we did something last year on that, and you find that there's other stuff that you can bring in as well. And this is where your crime wall starts to happen. Probably don't use that word, crime wall, but I'm just using it so you get a visual of what this could look like. There's hopefully no blood or anything like that. Okay, so 2 is that qualitative research. Now, the qualitative research is all about deep diving, really going in, finding out, talking to people. Diary studies is another example. You can actually, we got a phone call the other night from the radio station asking to send us a diary. Could we diarise when we listen to the radio, what channel, those kind of things, which I haven't done before, but I have in this world. So diary studies is another one. If you have willing participants, that can be things like, say, an athlete, you might want them to diarise if you're doing something on well-being, it could be, I want you to sort of, you know, can you capture the kinds of things that you do when you're feeling this way, or those types of things, and just gives you a little bit of a immersion into what's happening at that moment, because sometimes when you talk to people, they can forget, or when they're not in their world, in their context, what they say and what they do can be different. That is possible. And then complement with that quantitative data. So this is where your surveys. Does anybody have any other examples of quantitative data? So it can be things like customer feedback. So sometimes people do like, hey, leave some feedback for us. Do they do anything with it? I don't know. Could go in an Excel spreadsheet, like a lot of feedback, but it's actually really valuable stuff that can identify patches or areas of improvement. There could also be like sometimes satisfaction scores. I've been to 7-Eleven where they've got that thing at the desk where it says, how was your experience today? Or, you know, some toilets at the airport and things like, how did you find if people even take the time to do that. But that's just an example of those as well. So yes, that's sort of 3 different areas of where you can kind of collect data, research to go into that. Okay, so for this next bit, I'm going to talk a little bit about, we're just going to do a little exercise, let's just say, because illustrations can be quite important when you're doing your mapping. It's also cheap. I hear all the time, I can't draw, and that's okay. We all can kind of draw a stick figure or something like that. But this tool will hopefully help you. So if I can get you to get a piece of paper and a Sharpie or a texter or a pen, so I'll give you a sec just to grab that. And we're going to do this little drawing exercise, because when I was talking about how you can input feelings or emotions into your map, here is a really cool grid that I learned way back of expressions. So I want you to start with, if you do a line down there, put brows up there and mouth down here, and a little arrow goes across. That one goes across. Can you see that? Yeah. Then, okay, I'm just going to cut those off. And then this is going to be 3. So 1, 2, 3. It doesn't have to be neat or anything. It's just something quick that you can use. And then there's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 along here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Then over here, I'd like you to do sort of like a rainbow, a dash, and a wide U. Then over here for the brows, 2 of those, 2 going out that way, 2 going in, and then 2 dashes. Can't see the full view. Okay. I think you can click on those 3 little dots and say fit to screen. Can you just tell me if that works, Janelle? There should be like 3 little dots and you can...
No, it's more, hi, sorry. Just kind of zoomed in a little bit more. It's just the actual page. Like I've got the full screen open. It's actually just seeing the edge of the, like the paper looked like it kind of went across a little bit compared to where it was before. To your right.
Okay. Does that work?
That's much better. I don't know if that's the same for everyone else, but
Well,
thank you.
That's okay. Hopefully that's all right for everyone else as well. Okay, and now all you're going to do is you're going to put a circle on each one, and as you go along, put your circle and 2 little circles, and the brows on this one are what's above. So on this one here, it's going to be like that, and then the mouth is what's here. So that, and I'd like you to fill that grid in that fashion. If you just follow top and bottom, hopefully that makes sense. Please say if it doesn't. Oh, Sasha, I just saw your message there. I think the storm's coming to Canberra as well. And if everyone, like, if you can just pop your, maybe your raise hand or something, you can unraise it or whatever later, or a reaction just to let me know if you finished. Yeah. Okay, that's great. We've got lots of people. All right, we can move on.
Sorry, what were we supposed to be doing? Sorry.
It's okay.
No.
There is going to be a recording of this as well, which you'll get a copy of.
Okay.
But this grid here, if you want to take a screenshot even, all we did was just draw this up, and it's just a really quick reference for some emotions that you can use in your map, or anywhere really. You can use them, you know, if I was to chuck a little body on there, it's pretty... Actually, that guy looks pretty evil, let's be honest. How did everyone find that? Yeah, pretty good. It's pretty easy. It's a really quick reference for coming up with some quick emotions of how things, you know, are going in your journey, but also like in stories or things like that. You can use it in lots of different ways. Even for coming up with ideas, it might start with this person here, and then, you know, they become this person here or this person here or something. You can see that there's lots of different, just by using that quick kind of grid, you can stick it up somewhere, and it's actually just such an easy, quick reference of, you know, this kind of, yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that one. And we will use that in our mapping, or you can use it in your mapping. All right, so some tips, 10 tips for journey mapping, and I'm just going to refer to some printouts here. Don't necessarily have to be able to read it. Might be a bit foggy there. Be clear on what you want to accomplish. So again, start with something tangible. Start with, hey guys, I've noticed, there's a bit of an issue over here with this process. Lots of people seem to be dropping out or complaining or whatever it might be. So let's go and have a look at this problem. So we're not trying to sort of, where you kind of scope where your problem is pretty important. So you're not kind of solving climate change. It could be we're looking at shade sales at the club because we've noticed that there's 3 hours in between matches and kids are just standing around in the sun. Just an example. Don't know if that happens. So that's one. Know whose journey you're mapping. So who are you actually mapping this journey for? Is it for coaches? Is it for a volunteer on a committee? Is it a parent volunteer? So that can often start with even just doing things like there's a kind of map that you can draw, another map. Who's the target user at the crux of this, and who is sort of directly affected? So it could be, here's the coach, and directly might be parents, children, and then indirectly might be, the national sporting organisation or the state sporting organisation. So they're kind of not really affected, but yeah. So you can do this as well. That's a map just to work out who you're actually sort of targeting, who's your cohort. Talk to people. I've said that a million times today, so I don't need to talk any more about that one. Talk to your customers. So talk to your people was, if you're in an organisation, it's incredible just sitting. So the surfing example, I just went and sat in some offices with the different states and just said, hey, I'm just hanging around, just hoping to observe, or can you show me how you, when someone gets accreditation, like how does that work? And it's a bit of an eye-opener at times of you realise how many workarounds or different things that are going on. What's must-haves versus 6, which is nice-to-haves. So what's the things that you really need to have? Like, it just is not going to happen without that. And nice-to-haves might be, you still want to capture them, you don't want to lose them, but if you're hearing, we'd really like free fees, that might be, it's nice to have, noted, and there might be some other thing that comes up that actually lets people volunteer to get money taken off their fees, for example. So it still could come up. The importance of design. So really, just remembering that this is a very important process to go through. It's going to be an artifact or something that you share with people, like Alyssa told us. It could be out there, visual, helps people understand. And that's on to the next one, which is socialise and share. So get it out there. It shouldn't be something that's really private and sitting and, it's probably a really good point here as well, that in your research and your maps and the things that you show people, that you're not using people's actual names. It's really important to protect their identities. I don't do interviews and then say, this Joe over here said blah, 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 just because I de-identify it and I will just make up a different alias just to protect that person. or you can use codes. So you can always refer back if someone says, well, did someone actually say that? And you can refer back and say, yes, it was actually 3 people, because I've got the little codes here that go with them. I guess take action. So yeah, do something with this. They're not just a pretty thing to have hanging around or makes us look busy or whatever reasons. Really identify those opportunities of how you can do things better, and avoid analysis paralysis, which means you don't feel overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, I've got to include every single little thing. You definitely don't have to sort of go verbatim on everything, and yeah, it's more about, we heard this many times, so that's part of that. Yeah, you can go on forever otherwise. I'm going to just show you some quick examples, and I'm hoping, I mean, I'm not expecting you to be able to see them. It's even a little bit blurry on my paper, but there's also things called life event maps. You know, if you Google that, you'll probably come across the Government Digital Transformation Agency have done a lot of life event maps, and they're actually things like returning to work after a child is a life event, or having a child, or traveling, you know, or migrating, or coming to Australia to be a student, to study. It's a life event that happens, and these are massive. These can go down corridors, but just an example, just so that you can see some different ones. Another one, found this one online, but it's 3 journey maps, because, and this was done, I believe, during COVID, because Starbucks wanted to, and this happened to a lot of people during that time, where you had to almost reinvent the way you did your business or change things. Even I'm doing this online wasn't as popular pre-COVID to do lots of online meetings and things like that. So Starbucks did the experience of drive-through, but also online pickup. So what happens when you order it and then you go and pick it up, or what if you walk in? What's the experience going to be? Because you're going to have to do things like those check-ins that we had with the QR codes, and so that's just an example, which also, you know, I can pop in my examples, but you can probably Google that one as well. And the complexity of maps can be, and again, I don't expect you to see detail, but they can be really complex as well, and they can vary. So you might want to include visuals to kind of illustrate what's going on here, and then, you know, bring other bits out. So there's definitely more complex maps. There's your physical maps. So again, more what Alyssa was talking about, that they're doing with the committee there, and you can just put some butcher's paper up, not even, and some post-it notes, and next minute you kind of, the beauty of post-it notes, of course, is you can move them. That's why we use them. You can move them around if you've got something that's not quite right, and it actually goes over here. You can use these kind of walls as great discussion points as well. It's incredible. You know, you can have some really good conversations, or you can challenge each other on what the reality is, or is this, you know, is this the area that we want to focus on to make better, whatever it might be. So that's some physical ones. And then you might have more digital ones. So I did this just as an example when I went to the physio. So, you know, I did, and again, I've included my high-level steps. So I hurt my leg and I needed help. I search for a service near me. I book an appointment. So I've actually done screenshots. So you can also do that as well if you wanted to do the experience, say, of someone in someone in your club registering for a competition, say, and you can do screenshots. In this particular one, I've done other people involved as well. So the receptionist does have a lot of, and the practitioner, quite frankly, those two probably more include in the front stage. So things like, you know, when I check in, the receptionist greets and gives me the tablet to fill in details. So I'm sort of noting all those things that happen. There's a lot more that I could add to this, like how I was feeling at the time, or things that helped or didn't help. Yeah, there's a variety, or context things as well. So that's that one. And when we just did that expression grid, you can use those only if you wanted to. You could just do a visual of this thing happens, they're really shocked, then they're kind of curious, then this thing happens and another one, and you can use those emotions. So again, you're seeing lots of different types of maps and how they can vary between them. Okay, so now I'm going to do an actual map with you, and I hope this works. I only just recorded this interview on Friday, and I've cut the interview down, which is a team manager volunteer experience. So I thought I would map out with you the experience of this person who is new to being a manager. So often a map starts with a trigger or a reason why this thing has happened. And the reason's not always that obvious. Like a trigger might be, say, I was mapping out getting a coffee in the morning at the cafe. The trigger might be I need to wake up, or it makes me feel like I can start the day. So there's different reasons why we do something. And hopefully this comes out in this interview as well, which it will. So I've cut this down and I'm going to use it, and I'd love for you to be interactive with this in any way. So yeah, feel free to come off mute and speak anytime as we're going through, and that would be great. Now, I just want to double check that for time, I haven't got Elizabeth here today. She's away unwell. Have we got till 1:30 or 2? Does anyone?
I believe it's 1:30.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's an hour and a half.
Thank you. All right, I better get moving then. So I'm going to start with, let's just say, we'll do some actions of this person. And I'm just going to share. So what I'll do is I'll play a snippet and then I'll pause for a minute. And if anybody wants to input into this map, just come off or pop it in the chat, however feels most comfortable. All right, so I've got to include sound, and hopefully you can hear this. Turn up if you can't. Okay. All right, let's get started.
I have quite a large family, so I have 3 of my own children and I've got 2 stepkids, and we do them week on, week off, but all kind of jump in with like school activities and logistics, transporting, that sort of stuff, because it's a lot.
Okay, so we're hearing a little bit contextually about that person. So what what did we hear there about that person? Can anyone just give me a few little things about her?
5 children to run around.
Yep, 5 kids. She sounds busy.
Yeah, low levels of capacity.
Yep. That's probably, yeah, they sound like they're very busy. They've got lots of things to juggle in their family life.
Maybe following on from that, what is her ability to be able to digest new information?
Yeah. Yeah. And we may hear some more coming through as we go through the interview. So we'll leave that there for the moment. Thanks so much, guys, for that input. And I'm just going to play the next bit and let's just see what comes out now.
I have sort of always wanted to do something that shows my kids that I'm present in a significant part of their life. So it's either been sort of a school thing or an activity thing. So I always just sort of started off when they were like in kindy, doing the school readers when I was sort of like part-time. I never did any of that sort of school stuff with her. She's never seen me be involved in anything that she does. So I guess I was always open to having her see me do something. And so I thought, well, if I offer to sort of like help there, like helping them with costumes or doing like standing at the door, that kind of thing, she knows that I'm helping in that capacity. So that was sort of the level of involvement that I sort of always thought that I would do.
Okay, so I've got wants to show the kids that she's in their lives. Maybe there's something there around she's open to her daughter's sport. She mentioned in doing little things to show her daughter. And I'd almost say it felt like that is the trigger for why she's becoming a volunteer, is because she's saying that she wants to show the kids that she's involved in their lives. All right, we'll play the next bit.
So this year, that has very much sort of ramped up, sort of by accident. Like it was nothing that I ever intended to do. Basically, the manager of her club moved on, and so they had to sort of find a replacement. So I took on sort of that role as like a co-role with sort of 2 other people.
So it feels like the first step, sorry, that looks a bit fuzzy on there. It must be my phone. It's almost, she mentioned the word accident. Like she sort of fell into it, that the manager had moved on and they needed a replacement. Did anybody hear anything extra to that might be a step or some context? Okay, we'll play a little bit more.
And that's quite a large, that to me, that feels like a really big volunteering responsibility. My daughter really enjoys seeing me do it, and so that sort of makes it worthwhile. And I don't, like, I sort of complain about the amount of time it takes, but yeah, I like that she likes it. So like I sort of do it just so she can see that I'm involved and supportive of something that she's interested in.
Child moved on and or grew up, and do you think you would still volunteer?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
In a heartbeat, I would not. I think I very much only do it for them. And yeah, it's fulfilling like my desire to show my kid that I'm interested in their activities, and that I want my kids to grow up and want to be part of something bigger, and like, you know, they get involved in something and just because I guess I'm a bit fickle in my involvement, because like I said, I'd be out the second that she was out. But yeah, I just want to model what kind of values I'd like them to have, and yeah, like, you know, let them be interested in other things, and yeah, foster that in them, make them better people than me. I always sort of feel like, because I see what the coaches put into, and other volunteers put into that team, so I also kind of want to support them as well. That's probably another huge part, actually, now that I say that, I realise about myself. I'm all about, like, not making sure that I don't want them to have it all on their shoulders. Like, I kind of want to share the load, and they put so much time into my kid and the other kids. I sort of want to repay them for that, I guess. Yeah.
Did you do other, for the team that you're in, did you do any other smaller volunteer things, or dip your toe in another way before you started on the manager role?
Yeah, I just very much did, like, when there were little comps, I'd sometimes go and, like, help the girls with their costumes, or I'd make sure that I texted the coaches when like, what number dance was up, so they knew to get the team down, that sort of thing, or, like, sell raffle tickets, like, nothing major level. And I think I only sort of fell into it because there was an absence. Like, I don't think that I would be doing this role naturally.
Okay, she mentioned, which actually could be a step before then, that she did small clumps, she called them. So jobs, nothing major, might have been selling raffle tickets, things like that. So she's been introduced to volunteering through smaller things. And then the managers moved on, they needed a replacement. And a little bit came after that. What did she say after that?
Is there something around her motivation?
Yeah, definitely. I've put down here motivations because I think there's things, most of her motivations sounds like they're around showing her daughter, modelling for her daughter. She also mentioned supporting the coaches who support her child. Was there anything that I missed there, Tanya?
You've captured a lot of it. I do wonder, and maybe this is just applying prior experience. It sounds like there's a bit of mum guilt there.
She may go into that later. I think your experiences might be right there. Okay, I think she said something about filling a gap or a vacancy or something. So someone's gone and she's thought someone needs to step up into this. Let's continue.
I wouldn't have ever put my hand up to do it. It was just because I think they needed a gap to be filled, sort of thing.
So I'm sort of going on a bit of a journey here of how you've got into it and the things you had to do, but was there any kind of information given to you up front about what you would need to do, or? And I did get, like, a whole lot of paperwork and reading materials, that sort of thing, and given a bit of a run through, so they were pretty good with the onboarding. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I've just pressed the wrong button. She's mentioned paperwork. Did she say something about chats or running through, or I think she said reading materials. I think it was chats, that might come later. I pressed the wrong button, so let's see what I'm up to.
I took on sort of that role as like a co-role with
volunteer.
Absolutely not. You're interested in other things, and yeah,
yeah,
foster that in them, make them better people than me.
for the team that you're in, did you do any other smaller volunteer things or
reading materials, that sort of thing, and given a bit of a run through? So they were pretty good with the onboarding. Yeah. So emailed a whole bunch of documents. And we had a couple of chats on the phone about how, because it was the beginning of the year, like sort of how the coach sort of felt like she wanted things to be set up and move forward. And I did sort of have like a face-to-face sort of handover about, you know, this is the equipment, this is the first aid kit, this is what you need to do if it sort of runs out, this is how you get reimbursement, that sort of thing. So it was pretty broad. Typically, my function is admin, so I have to just sort of mark off who's there, which coaches are there. I sort of try and help the coaches with like managing the groups, that kind of thing. It's a lot of like organising fundraising, opening like my house up if like in the mornings if like the girls will need to sort of get ready to get their hair done, that kind of stuff. So it's
And is there any things that you need to do to be a volunteer in Carl's Clinics, both formal and informal, like any requirements?
So we had to have a working with vulnerable people card. We were asked to do a training course. I never actually did it, but it wasn't mandatory, I think, for the volunteer role that I'm like undertaking.
Yeah.
It's more like for coaches and cadets who actually were going to be involved with the kids, like the training. I think that was something that they had to do. I think it was called like Play Fair or something like that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah. So they did. Yeah, something like that. There was a whole bunch of reading material about like expectations. And I just had to read through it all and make sure that I understood it. I think get access to like the inbox and acknowledge like confidentiality about any things that I saw, and like it was made very clear to me that I had to understand that what like privacy, what sort of things were involved in that space, about what I can and cannot show or share with any of the coaches, cadets, that sort of thing. That was made explicitly clear.
Okay, I'm going to stop there just for time. But as you can see, this just grows and grows and grows. And what I tend to do at first is just put things down, and then you start having conversations together. Not necessarily with the person, because normally I would map a few different interviews into one map. So it might be that we realise that there's some kind of things that they have to do that's in that sort of policy or integrity, compliance kind of space. So that could sort of come under, it could even come before really, if you wanted to move things around. There was also the kinds of things that she's doing, so fundraising, it just sounds like if I was to list them onto individual things, she's covering a mountain of stuff for one person, which, you could say, because she does go into it further in the interview, that it's too much. It's just too much. And if she hadn't have been asked just before, before Christmas holidays is when she was kind of, hey, do you want to do this thing? She said, if I was asked now, because she works in she mentions later, she works in a full-time, very stressful job. So something might come out later that actually this is kind of, I'm feeling a bit like, oh God, this is so much. And just as an example, we might say, you know what, we're going to work on all the tasks that she does, because she does go on to describe what a typical training day looks like. And she goes through, which is a little bit further on, of step by step. She packs the car up, the whole boot's full. She cleans equipment, she checks the kids in, she greets the parents. She has to have hard conversations with the parents about things, all of that sort of stuff. So we might say, I don't want to run to solutions but just for this purpose, you might end up saying, you know what, this is a whole area in improving the way managers at our club do things, that we might actually break these into smaller tasks and try to get help with someone else can work on fundraising. Why, you know, is it all bundled into one thing? Just as an example. That is a lot, and as you can see, could go on to be lots and lots more. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of a taster on that, of something that you could take away, and you can try this if you haven't already. You can also get, you know, you can map out a few different journeys, and then you can see what's the things that are in common. Sorry, there's a lot of noise here. So you can find things in common. You might say, well, everyone's doing, you know, assigning, the coach sets expectations, but then we find out later on there's 2 coaches, you know, different things like that. And other people might say, oh, well, we actually have chats with the cadets. So it might be, okay, well, we'll put that underneath. They're common, they're around the same time, but this is a variation of someone else actually has chats with different people rather than coaches, but they're doing the same role as manager. Okay, I am at time. I will hang on for anyone that wants to have a chat afterwards, but I'm very happy for anyone to ask any questions, or if you have any comments, and please give any feedback, send that through to Elizabeth if you do have any feedback about how this might be better for next year's cohort as well. And I will leave it there for now. So thank you so much for coming along, and for listening and interacting. If you have any questions, please, come off mute and have a chat. Otherwise, I will let you go and maybe have lunch.
Thank you.
Thanks. Sasha, did you have any questions after that?
Hi, yes. Thank you so much. That was I was actually just writing a little note there. That was really fabulous. I don't think I actually really knew what I was in for, but I really, really loved it. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm trying to work out kind of where to start, to be honest, in my questions. Maybe if you don't mind, I give you a tiny sort of background on myself. I sort of mentioned I'm running my own business.
Oh, I'll turn this off. Sorry, Sasha. Let me just turn the recording off. You don't need to be on the recording.